All right, picture the richest person you can think of right now. Got him? A tech mogul, maybe? Now, whatever their net worth is, I want you to multiply it by 10, okay? You're still not even in the same ballpark. We live in an age where we track billionaires' wealth like it's a sport. But today, we're going to talk about a man whose riches were so completely off the charts that economists today just throw up their hands. They can't even calculate it. So that's the big question, right? How rich was the richest person who ever lived? Well, the answer takes us back to the 14th century, to a powerful African king who ruled the Mali Empire, a man they called the King of Kings, Mansa Musa. So really, what are we talking about in terms of wealth? People have tried to put a number on it. The best guess is something around $400 billion in today's money. But even that number, honestly, it doesn't do it justice. Most experts just give up and call his wealth indescribable. And why is that? Because he controlled the very things that made the economy run. It's kind of like trying to figure out the net worth of planet Earth. The number just doesn't make sense. But here's what makes this story so wild. We're not just talking about a guy who sat on a pile of gold like a dragon. No, this is the story of a man who had so much of it that when he decided to go on a trip, a pilgrimage, he didn't just boost the local economies he visited, he completely broke them. He is the only man in history to single-handedly crash the price of gold just by being generous. So how in the world does one person get that powerful? Well, his story doesn't start with some grand ambition. It starts with, believe it or not, an accident. See, back in 1312, Mansa Musa was never supposed to be king. He was the number 2 guy, the deputy. To understand his wealth, you gotta understand the Mali Empire. It was sitting on 2 absolute pillars of power. First, gold. And we're talking about a lot of gold. The empire controlled about half of the entire Old World supply. And second, salt. Yeah, salt. In the middle of the Sahara Desert, salt was life. It was a preservative, it was essential, and it was literally worth its weight in gold. Musa's empire didn't just have the gold mines. It controlled the salt trade routes, too. He was getting a piece of every single transaction. But here's where the story gets weird. The guy in charge, King Abu Bakr II, he had a different kind of obsession. He couldn't have cared less about the gold. He was fascinated by the Atlantic Ocean. He wanted to know what was on the other side. So he put together this massive fleet, 2,000 ships, and just sailed off. And poof, he and the entire fleet were never seen again. Just like that, the deputy, Mansa Musa, inherits the throne and this absolutely unimaginable fortune. So for about a decade, Musa kind of kept to himself. He was this incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy king that most of the world had never heard of. That all changed in 1324. He decided to perform the Hajj, the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. But, when you're the richest man in history, you don't just go on a trip. You bring your entire kingdom with you. Just try to picture this for a second. A single caravan, stretching for miles, crossing 4,000 miles of the Sahara Desert. And in that caravan, 60,000 men. That's not a typo. 60,000 people moving as one massive city across the sand. The sheer scale is just, it's mind-boggling. And get this, within that giant procession, there were 12,000 of Musa's own personal servants. And each and every one of them was carrying a solid gold bar that weighed 4 pounds. That's almost 50,000 pounds of pure gold being carried just by his staff. Oh, but we're not done. Then came the camels. He had a train of 80 camels, and their only job was to carry even more gold. Each one was loaded down with up to 300 pounds of gold dust. This wasn't a pilgrimage. This was a 4,000-mile-long moving billboard for the insane wealth and power of Mali. People who actually saw it wrote that it looked like a literal river of gold flowing across the desert. I mean, everyone, from the top nobles all the way down to the slaves, was dressed in the finest Persian silks. And wherever this caravan happened to stop on a Friday, Musa would order a new mosque to be built, right then and there, paying for it on the spot with gold. It was like something out of a fantasy. But this incredible display of generosity was about to slam face first into a very hard, very real economic lesson. It's Econ 101, right? Scarcity creates value. Something is valuable because it's rare. Well, Mansa Musa was about to find out what happens when you take the rarest, most valuable thing in the world and make it common. So in July of 1324, this golden river flows right up to the gates of Cairo, Egypt. Now, in the medieval world, Cairo was a huge deal. It was the economic hub of the entire region. The Sultan of Egypt knew a king was coming to visit, but he had absolutely no idea the economic hurricane that was about to hit his city. Okay, so before we go any further, let's quickly talk about this term hyperinflation. Basically, it's what happens when you flood an economy with a ton of new money. Suddenly, the cash in everyone's pocket is worth less and less, and prices for everything just explode. Keep that word in your head, because that's exactly what Musa's kindness was about to unleash. So Musa and his 60,000-person entourage hit the markets in Cairo. They bought everything they could see: souvenirs, spices, silks. And they didn't bargain, they just handed out gold. At first, the people of Cairo thought it was the greatest thing ever. The shopkeeper was rich, the baker was rich, everybody was suddenly rich. But when everyone is rich, no one is. Gold was so common that it lost its value. The result was a complete economic disaster. He pumped so much gold into the system that its value across the entire Mediterranean crashed by 20%. Goods that used to cost a few copper coins now cost a small fortune in gold. He single-handedly triggered mass hyperinflation. And get this, it took the region's economy 12 full years to recover from his 3-month visit. Now, what's so fascinating is that Musa actually realized what he'd done. On his journey back home from Mecca, he passed through Cairo again and he saw the mess he'd made, so he tried to fix it. He went to all the moneylenders in the city and borrowed as much gold as he possibly could at sky-high interest rates. He was trying to suck all that extra gold back out of the market to make it scarce again. It is the only time in history that a single person has controlled the price of gold for an entire region. Musa eventually got back home to Mali, but he didn't just come back with stories. He came back with talent. On his trip, he recruited the greatest minds he could find: architects, scholars, poets from all over the world. He was determined to turn all that wealth into something that would last: knowledge. He commissioned the legendary Jingle River Mosque in Timbuktu, a stunning piece of architecture that's actually still standing today. And he founded the Sankore University, which turned Timbuktu into a global center for learning. I mean, while Europe was still clawing its way out of the Dark Ages, students in Timbuktu were studying math, law, and astronomy in a library that rivaled any on Earth. It was a true golden age. And the world absolutely noticed. Musa's trip literally put his empire on the map. This right here is from the 1375 Catalan Atlas, one of the most important maps of that entire era. And look, right there in the middle of West Africa, it's Mansa Musa sitting on a golden throne, wearing a gold crown, holding a massive gold nugget. This image burned itself into the European imagination, but they didn't see a patron of education. They saw a giant walking treasure chest. And that's the thing. The fame he brought to his empire was a total double-edged sword. On one side, the blessing. Mali became this world-famous beacon of culture and knowledge. But on the other side, there was the curse. The stories of the Golden King spread to Portugal, to Spain, to every raider and conqueror looking for a prize. Everyone wanted a piece of it. And ultimately, it was too much. After Musa died, his sons just couldn't hold the vast empire together. It was torn apart by civil wars from within and invasions from without. Over time, the gold was stolen, the great libraries were lost to the desert sands, and the empire itself just crumbled. And the saddest part? The legend of Timbuktu changed. It stopped being known as a real city of learning and became a myth, a lost city of gold. His story is just this incredible lesson in how fragile our economies really are, and about a time when one African king literally held the world's economy in his hands and broke it, just by being kind. His journey shows us that fine line between scarcity and value, the crazy unintended consequences of having immense power, and how fame can build a kingdom up just as easily as it can tear it down. The gold is gone, the empire is dust, but the mosque he built is still there. So you really have to wonder, in the end, was all that wealth a blessing for his people, or was it the very curse that led to their ruin?